Joining me today are Kevin O'Neill, Senior Policy Associate for the American Legion's Veterans Employment and Education Division, and Victor Inzunza, Policy Analyst for Swords to Plowshares. Let's get started. What are the first things that veterans should do when they're thinking of enrolling in college? Do you have any general tips? Because I know just looking at this can be so overwhelming. You've got your GI Bill, you've got choosing majors, you've got choosing the right place. When veterans come to you guys for advice, what are the first things that you tell them? And Kevin, let's start with you.
I would say, far before becoming a veteran, while you're still in the service, I would start researching and planning at least a couple years in advance. Start exploring avenues that you're interested in, your passions. Start talking to as many people as you can about what avenues are available to you. And again, what your passions are and what you're really interested in. Because if you're going to pursue a degree, you really need to be invested in that. And so if you're not passionate about it, I can tell you right now that it's going to be a lot more difficult to pursue that particular avenue. I'll give you an example. So when I got out of the military, I enrolled in community college and thought that I wanted to go into the computer science field. Well, I found out really quickly that I wasn't passionate about that. And so I changed directions. I found my real passion was international relations. So I pursued a degree in that. So I would just recommend that you really do a lot of research and explore the various avenues because there are so many. And I really recommend speaking to as many people as you can in those career fields to find out if this is really something that you want to do.
Victor, what about you? If there's folks who haven't done that sort of level of planning, what do you tell them just run to a college, just pick something, just throw yourself into it? Or is it sometimes better to take a step back here?
So I would just say, like, a lot of what Kevin said applies in most situations too. But definitely for folks who may not have prepared in advance, which isn't, it's not a high crime or anything. It happens. Getting out of the military is a very complicated process. Some folks are more concerned with material things like getting back home, transitioning their family into a new place to live, finding a stable job. So, getting into education right away is probably not the best idea. I would say for myself, I took about 6 months off to kind of get established and did some work before I started going back to community college as well. It just seems like whatever's going to fit for the individual person. And we find that the more that we talk to students who've engaged in this process, their stories are very different and their pathways are going to, be really more particular to their situation. And so there's really no reason not to take time and just kind of plan either in advance or take time to get acclimated back to, the city that you live in or wherever you end up moving first.
Is there a stigma against that, though? I feel like some folks are like, hey, I'm out of the military. I got to make a decision now. I got to move forward, right? But it sounds like just jumping into that might not be the best call. So you got to figure out what your plan is first.
Okay, so I would say in a similar vein to what Victor was speaking of, I mean, it depends on the individual. It depends on what they have going on in their life. Do they have dependents? Do they have a place to go back home to? So these are things you need to consider. I do understand that there's an urgency to do something right away when you exit the military. I would say if that's what you want to do, I would recommend attending community college to start and really figuring out what path you want to take and what you're interested in. I know that Victor and I were speaking about this the other day, and we both attended community college, and that really helped to figure out the direction that we wanted to take. And so I would recommend that if you really want to jump into something immediately after exiting the military.